I don't think you should treat this as the Brexit election, which is what the Tories want you to do. You see, what they put forward anyway is a fake Brexit, which is worse than Remain. So anybody who reads what they're saying would actually prefer Remain than their so-called fake Brexit.
I saw in the news that Conservative Party supporters or members were polled on this, and they said they'd be quite happy to see the breakup of Scotland and Northern Ireland from Britain if it meant you could get Brexit done. It's a sort of, what do you think of that?
Well, I think that's ridiculous. I mean, a big thing that's wrong with what the Tories are doing is it does start to break up the United Kingdom, and it hives off Northern Ireland. It's basically a land grab by the European Union, and it would leave Britain controlled in many respects by the European Union, but without having a say.
But doesn't it also mean, in a way, the dynamics certainly between Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, and Nigel Farage actually and Donald Trump?
Of course.
Jeremy's been talking a lot about, going into Trump's hands and all that sort of thing. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's true. Boris and Farage and Trump together are a dangerous trio to take away democracy, and in the end will be favouring monopoly capitalists doing what the hell they want. It might be in the name of leaving the EU or whatever, but what we have to have is, I think we do have to leave the EU, but we have to run things the way we want, not something dictated by America. People have to look beyond the talk of Brexit and say, look, what about our living standards? What about our investment in the future? This is what Labour is standing for and what the Tories are scared of. So instead they'll talk about Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. And does my brother believe or not believe? No, he's quite right to say, look, I'm not going to give a view on that. Because one, we don't know what any deal we've got with the EU is going to be. So how can you say you're for and against something before you've negotiated it? And two, he's got the bigger picture in mind, i.e. true prosperity for the British working class, which is the complete opposite of what the Tories want. So anyone who's critical of Labour and what my brother says should just ignore these details and say, look, you're going to vote Labour this time for a better future. And then we can argue, we can still argue about how we relate to the European Union. In my opinion, we should get the hell out of it.
Go back a little bit. During the miners' strike, what was going on? What was your brother doing? What were you doing during the miners' strike?
Him and I were on every goddamn picket line we could be. We were backing the miners all the way. We were collecting food, parcels for them in Peckham, and sending them up the north. I visited various pits, pit areas myself, and got badges of them.
And you've been fighting, but also in London, against the destruction of communities, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. Let's say Aylesbury fight.
Well, I've been very involved in defence of council housing and defence of council housing communities. I mean, a lot of the mental health problems around young people or middle-aged people or older people are to do with destruction of communities. And most of those destructions are around council housing, which is, the rampant permissioning of investment capital. Some of it from Europe into Britain. Now this has to be controlled, and the European Union doesn't like those sort of controls. Now, my brother and his team, they do want these sort of controls to defend communities and give communities a final say on these things, have balance. But a lot of this stuff will run up against the European Union. So my opinion is you need a Labour government now. They carry out their programme. They will run up against obstruction from the European Union. So either the European Union has to give way, or it'll be, 70-30 wanting to get out of the EU because of restrictions, or the EU will have to give way to what British people want.
But why is Jeremy different?
Well, he's always fought for working class interests. He's refused 24/7 to take positions in shadow cabinets or whatever, or cabinets, because he realised that there would be a price to pay in what he expressed. He won the leadership election twice on the principles of standing up for interest, and that's what he's done.
And do you think that's the reason why he's been so maligned and attacked?
Well, absolutely, because he's different from all the other leaders around. Completely different. You see, he's voted consistently against the various deals that the EU imposed upon us, namely the Maastricht Treaty and the Lisbon Treaty. The other leaders around haven't, they just either didn't bother to read them, or just cowered down. No, Jeremy does stand for the interest of working people, and that is what the Tory media are dead scared of. That is why they keep having these opinion polls saying Labour's behind. Well, I don't believe them. Labour can win on election day.